welcome to Sugar and Spice and Real Estate Advice. And today I am very honored to have the beautiful Miss Alyson.griffin. She has over 25 years of lending experience. She's one of the best lenders here in the state of Texas. No matter, I've worked with several teams, and your team has always been willing to go above and beyond, very knowledgeable, well connected, and if your goal is to own a house, her team is here to help you through that process 100%. One thing that I think is interesting and really cool about your team is no matter, once I get someone to you, guys do your due diligence and go ahead and find programs that that my clients are qualified for. My clients don't even have to ask. Her team goes above and beyond to find those great programs. And one program that we're going to discuss today, which everyone's been waiting for, is Section 8, and her team is one that kind of does this. So I have a few questions that we've gotten from a lot of people viewing, and she's going to address a lot of the questions that we have around converting your Section 8 voucher from renting to actually purchasing a house. All right.
Well, thank you, Jessica, for what a great introduction. I'm not sure what else I can add to what a terrific lead into all this. But yes, the Section 8 voucher, but is now known as the Housing Choice Voucher. We use Section 8 because most people recognize the name. When we mention Housing Choice Voucher, most people don't know what that means.
Right. Well, let's talk about it a little bit. What are some things that they need to know to qualify for a home if they have a voucher?
Sure. I think one of the biggest misnomers is that people think because they've got a voucher, they don't have to meet the regular mortgage guidelines, and that couldn't be further from the truth. So the buyers that I've helped, and I've been doing this since 2006, they meet all the mortgage criteria that our regular buyers meet. The best part about the program is they get the benefit of using their rental portion now to own the house. So let's say that they got $500 to go towards rent. Now that $500 is used to go towards a house payment. It also gives them some added protections that if for instance, their income goes down, it can be adjusted so they get more money from the voucher. Or, as most of my clients have experienced, once they're in the house 4 or 5 years, they do what's called income out. So they're making enough money, they've stabilized, and they can make the whole payment themselves.
Okay. What about if something happens where, is there a time where the reduction, it can be reduced?
Sure, every year the voucher holder has to go into an income reevaluation.
Okay.
So they're going to go and they'll bring in their pay stubs, their W-2s, or whatever the housing authority requires, and they'll look at income to make sure. Now the added benefit, and I get this question a lot, Jessica, is a lot of the families are hesitant to go into home ownership because they've got children. And their concern is that, well, Miss Griffin, my children are going to be leaving the house soon. They're 13, 14, and 16. I can't afford that house when they leave the home.
Okay.
Great news, Jessica. They don't downsize the voucher.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's terrific. So they can go into home ownership now with, let's say, a $1,700 house payment on a 3-bedroom home, and then not have to worry about when their children get older, getting downsized to a 1-bedroom from a 3-bedroom. So they'll always be able to make that payment.
That's great. Can they use the voucher to purchase a home anywhere?
Yes, ma'am. Now, some of the housing authorities will have certain jurisdiction zip codes. So if you have your voucher, let's say from the Houston Housing Authority, then they have a zip code area that they service. So what may happen is if you go down to Fort Bend County, for example, they may say, well, you need to transfer to a different housing authority. But most families don't. Most families stay within their service area.
Okay. And I'll also, if you're in the Houston area, I will put a link to the percentage and the different zip codes as well.
That brings up a great point, Jessica, on the zip codes. Mm-hmm. The other fantastic news for homeowners is the housing authorities have increased your voucher if you go into what they're called high zip codes. So for certain areas where the families want better schools for the children, but they couldn't afford the rent, great news, Jessica. You could take someone that may have been only eligible for $1,400 a month, then they go up to $1,800.
Oh, wow.
So it's the same percentage that they're going to pay, but the government's going to pay more to help them get into these better areas.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Let me see what we got here. How does how does the voucher go against what they pay? We talked about that a little bit. So
Sure.
the difference between what their monthly payment is and their voucher, how is that decided?
Sure. It's a little bit different in home ownership than in rental. So, but very similar. So when they're in rental, they'll come in, the housing authority will evaluate their income and decide how much of the rent they can afford. Typically it's 30 to 40% of whatever their income is, they'll go towards a housing. And the same is true in home ownership, except that they've now expanded it these high cost areas.
Okay.
So it helps them purchase more than if they were renting.
A big question that I got to was, prior to closing, what are expenses or what kind of finance or what are they gonna have to pay for up front?
Sure.
How much money do they need, would you say?
Sure. Typically, I advise my clients in Harris County that they need to have between $2,000 and $3,000 for closing. We try to structure these deals with down payment and programs so that covers the bulk of the down payment, the closing costs. But at a bare minimum, they're going to need to have their earnest money,
Gotcha.
which can range anywhere from $500 to 1% of whatever the sales price is.
Right.
So the average home we do is around $200,000, so it could be anywhere from $500 to $2,000 just in earnest money.
Right.
If they're buying a resale home, the housing authority will require them to do a home inspection, which I think you'd agree on all your buyers.
Yeah,
you
always want to do an inspection.
Right, yeah, that goes without saying.
And they range anywhere from $300 to $600,
Right,
on the price and the scope. But,
and then you have the $525 for the appraisal.
okay.
Now that can be charged on a charge card, but the buyer's got to pay for that prior to us ordering the appraisal. And then with the down payment assistance programs, we structure it to maybe a couple $100 at closing, $200 or $300.
Okay.
So it's a great deal because a lot of these renters are having to pay first and last month's rent.
Yeah.
So it's actually cheaper to buy a house than having to do first and last month's rent.
Right. Okay. And we also talked about how much they need to close. How does my Section 8 voucher actually work to qualify me for a home loan? So we've already looked at a few of the elements. The
Sure.
credit needs to be there. I guess the question is, okay, did that make sense?
Sure,
Like,
sure.
how
What's
does
my
it go?
purchasing power?
Yeah, what's my purchasing power?
What's my purchasing
yeah,
power?
Yeah.
So if I had looked at the buyer's income and I didn't have the Section 8, or I couldn't include that as income, then they might be anywhere from 20 to 40% less in purchasing power. So for example, for every $200 in income, they should have at least purchasing power anywhere from $15,000 to $25,000 in purchasing power. So if they've got a $500 to $600 worth of rental voucher, that could be the difference of buying a $140,000 house versus buying a $175,000 house.
Right.
So that gets you a whole bigger area of what you purchase. Now the one difference is in rental, the housing authority will send their payment, that $500, to the landlord. In home ownership right now, they've got it to where they send it to the buyer, and then the buyer sends it in with the mortgage. So typically it's a dual endorsed check. So they'll send the buyer, that they have to sign it. It's made payable to the mortgage company, and they send it off with their payment.
Okay. And another great thing about this, guys, is it can be a brand new home. You can choose the location. It can be pre-existing home.
Right.
So there's no limitations to what you can do with this. Why do you feel it is important to convert these vouchers from leasing to purchasing?
Oh, that's huge. It's so wonderful for the family because they're able to stabilize. Jessica, I can't tell you how many families have come to me having to move every year and a half, 2 years. And we did a study, on average, it costs them around $3,000 to move.
Yeah.
And then it's the stress of, they're typically single parents, they're working, so they've got to worry about where the kids are going to go to school, where the doctors are, all that. Typically by buying a house, you get in better neighborhoods.
Right.
You know, it's tough right now in Houston to find a rental home.
Yeah.
So they're having to go to apartments. So now they're able to not only possibly buy a resale, brand new house,
Right.
brand new everything, brand new refrigerator, washer, dryer, all of that.
Right. And the pride that goes with home ownership is just so vast.
That's right.
Mean,
Right.
I know what I'm like renting a car. I'm just, but I'm definitely not gonna drive my car like that. So then the ownership, the neighborhoods, it goes up in
and building equity.
Equity and just everyone.
I've got families that are coming back now. They're off the voucher buying their second house.
Gotcha.
So 2008, 2009, they bought a $100,000 KB home. Now they're looking for a $250,000, and they sold their previous home for $190,000.
Wow.
So just in a short period of time, all that equity appreciation is theirs. None of that goes back to the housing authority. That's the buyer, the voucher holder's equity.
And one great thing too, I looked this morning, HUD, even though it's been decreased, they have their budget is about $39 billion.
Wow.
And if everybody's renting, that's going towards rent, that's just indefinite. You know what I mean? That will never go down. But if we put these people in properties that they own, even if everybody stayed on it, which statistically they won't, but even if they did, at 30 years, the houses belong to them, so that'll be going down over time. So it's just it's good for us as a whole here in the United States.
Yes.
And also it's helping our citizens,
It's great for the community,
The
Jessica.
community, yeah.
You brought up a good point, is now they've gone to homeownership, they're paying real estate taxes.
Right.
So they're paying in there. They're paying towards the school district taxes.
Yeah.
Right? And so they're building up the neighborhoods, and as we all know, as we see these neighborhoods build up, what follows is the commercial development.
Exactly.
So now we've got job creation. So it's a great dynamic.
Thank you so much for your time. If you guys have any questions, please message me, and I will have Alyson's information in the link below. Again, she's a great resource, not only for this, but any type of lending that you need, especially, you see how thorough she is on this. Regular loans are a walk in the park for her. So thank you guys so much. If you have any questions, let us know. And if you have any other topics you want us to elaborate on, let us know. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.